No.
We should put that on there so they can hear that.
You want the counting?
They know it's coming.
Yeah, we could do that.
Oh, there
you go.
that works too.
Artificial counting.
Episode 3. Are we here? Are we live?
Yeah, we're rocking, man.
I can't.
Episode
Can you
3.
hear me?
You're good.
Yeah.
Cody's doing the
All right.
intro because
Okay.
he's a podcaster.
Man, I'm still hung up on that first episode. But anyway,
You gotta move on.
episode 3, we're all back. We're going to cover some October hunting tactics, situations. We got some listener questions. We got some good stuff to go over here. There's a lot of controversial stuff in the industry, I'd think, about Octobers in general, mornings in October, bed hunting, all this kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
yeah, we're going to
My
get
goal
into some
this
good stuff.
podcast is to get both you guys worked up.
Worked up.
Maybe a little pissed. I'm going to try not to get punched by Andre. I was going to have him sit there, so I was a little bit out of
Okay,
your
so
reach.
I can reach you from here.
That's
Well, here's this. We're going to start off. So, all right, October hunting. There's a ton of questions about it. There's a ton of. I don't know how to word it. I'm trying to be careful, but eventually I'm just going to throw all that care out the window and we're just going to dive into it.
I mean,
There's a lot of you can and can't do hard line stuffs in October. That's what people say.
in this, I think this comes back to these industry standards and the question of who came up with these and where is this information coming from. I know that I get a lot of questions just from people in general. I think probably, or at least 80% of my deer came from October. A lot of Dad's deer, and then even from that on, you don't realize how many deer is Dad passing up. Are we passing up in October too that aren't just kills? But
yeah.
So there's a lot. October is a great time to hunt, and we're going to get into why and why some of this bullshit out there is not true.
Yeah. So
And do they still call it the October lull like they did back in the 80s? It was a big thing.
Yeah, they do. And I have a theory on the lull. I've talked about it on Working Class series that I want to get to because I have two theories. I'm not saying I don't think it exists, but I think it depends on your property. Might experience a certain individual to experience a lull. So let's get into that. But
I can tell you about the October lull.
The first question I have, basically just fire things off. Would you guys say that your hunting style and the knowledge that you guys have or the knowledge that you're willing to share or put out there, do you think based off that solely, do you think that your guys' style is a little different or against the grain from what mainstream hunting says in general about you can and can't do this? This is
I'm gonna take a real quick. I'm gonna say something, and then Dad, you can follow up with it. But I personally think that this is all like this because your typical hunter, you have just like a lot of other hunting seasons. You have it's the rut. That's your hunting season. A lot of people don't look at early season, late season. It's the more desired time to be in the woods. There's more action. Deer are acting kind of loopy. It's an easier time to kill an animal. Their wits are not about them. Their guard is down. So I think the reason you don't, you don't hear a lot of these October things and you hear these things bashing against October is because, for one, these guys are hunting in a traditional fashion on field edges and hunting funnels for does out running and it's a different approach, I think, from October, or a guy who's hunting from the day the season opens to the day it ends, or a guy who has 6 days off of work and it's November 1st through 6th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of my. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think,
we
Dad?
can start out with the pluses and minuses of October. If you're hunting a specific whitetail, there's no better time to capitalize than October, hands down. If you're just looking for a good buck, it don't matter which buck it is, definitely the rut. You could take your pick.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll have a buck up on its feet, and it'll literally go by 10 of your stand sites in one day, and sometimes 2 times in the same day. So, but if you're looking for a specific buck, I think October. Pluses and minuses. October, touchier, shittier moon phases.
Touchier. Okay.
Big thing is that usually the weather is damper. It's really hard to manipulate scent and things. So there's some things that work against you. But if you know the habits of a deer and you know how to handle, that would be a time to be a little less aggressive. But my whole theory years ago on when they had the old October lull, I think I figured it out, is most guys start hunting and they had setups and spots that they hunted. and it's opening weekend, so it's a fresh hunt. First time you're in a stand. They see deer. Now they keep hunting that stand, and that stand goes colder and colder. And right on through October, they don't move around. The deer move around. They're still out doing what they're doing, but they're in a different spot. Then they start getting more active. They start seeing more deer on that stand again, and in a rut you can stay in the same stand and see them. So what they've done is they've created their own October lull.
Right, from pressure.
From just not moving around and staying, and you're gonna go after these
in
deer.
my head, like on the Working Class podcast, what I always said is I think some guys experience a lull. Some guys that hunt small tracts of property, say it's 20 acres, that's what they have, and they don't have the food source that deer might change onto, mid-October, say it's like acorns or whatever they move to. And that guy's not seeing them. He experiences a lull no matter what he does because maybe the deer aren't there.
Right.
So that was my theory on the lull.
That's part of it. Yeah.
It doesn't apply everywhere, but nothing does.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no cookie cutter answer to everything.
So let's do this. Let's look at October, the entire month.
Okay.
And
let me ask this: who is your favorite time to hunt? What is your favorite time to hunt? You're a rut hunter. You like the rut, or you like?
I personally enjoy the rut because I like the chaotic. Like you never know what can happen. It goes back to that mystique we talked about.
But are you hunting
episode.
a specific deer? Or you just want to go out and pound something?
See, if I just want to go out and pound something but I think late October, like I've killed deer in that 20 to 25th. Is I like that range a lot because it doesn't seem like they're not with a doe yet. Like I killed my buck last year, one October 20th and one on November 3rd, and neither one of them was with a doe. They were just doing big buck things.
Yep.
So I was able to accurately go in and kill one. So I would say from October 20th to the first week of November is my favorite time.
Right. Well, the guys too experienced that, so I'll do the same thing. There'll be times in October I'll go out, and it's a ghost town. I can hear the buck I'm hunting in its bed at sunup, hacking away, chewing its cud, and not ever get up. And I get to that stand, I hunt for 3 hours, and I pray to God them damn pain in the ass coyotes that are supposed to be running around over the property, they come running through and kick him up off his ass. So there's times that deer just aren't moving, and that's every time. But to not hunt October it just makes no sense at all.
So let's break October down, the month. Maybe it's the whole month is good, and it's all not everything applies every day. But like if you had to pick a day, like a week in October, are you the first half because everything's fresh? Are you mid? Where are you at on that?
So I like. Here's my scenario. I like to be after a nasty ass storm with a high pressure system coming through. I don't hunt the front side of the storm. I want it to be third week October. I've seen more net Boone and Crockett bucks working scrapes in daylight hours. Right after a storm comes through, they're laid up. They haven't fed. Now they're out. They got to reopen all those scrapes. They are as active as you can be, and a rut is right there. So that for me, that's the most empowering time, and to be in the stand where the wind's right, man. You can't. Right. And I like it to be a morning spot too.
Morning.
So
what about you, Cody?
I mean that's a good time. I've capitalized on a few bucks there, hitting the scrapes after the rain, and just always kind of seeing that. But I think I'm gonna gravitate toward the. I can't really pick a time. It's early. I don't like the extreme heat. I like 13th. When it starts cooling down. Yeah.
The 13th.
Well, I mean, they're definitely probably in that like that 10th to 15th.
That's the turning point, right?
Range.
Like that's when it starts to just feel a little different in the woods, I think.
I think so, but like
drier days.
I mean,
just
humid. Getting in there and
crisp.
Getting in there and really diving in. I guess it depends. Like you said, if you're hunting a specific buck, like you mentioned, in general, those bucks are going to be, I think, starting to get a little squirrely by the third week of October. It's getting cooler. They're getting a little more testosterone flowing. They're wanting to mark their territory. Like, I think that's a general approach to bucks in all. And obviously this changes if I know where a buck is October 1st. Then my favorite time is going to be October 1st, I would say. But
the beginning,
getting in there and kind of, like you mentioned, hearing that buck in his bed, like, okay, well, where the hell is he going to come at? Diving a little deeper in there. And what's always kind of fired me up is a super close shot. So, like, just I guess, that earlier. Because I've had a lot of success around that third, like.
So let me just dive in because I talked to you a little bit. This buck right now that I have pulled up.
Yeah.
That one you killed. I think we talked about it. You killed him in his bed or him right going down into his bed.
Yeah, it was a funny story. I was with a good buddy of mine, and we were hunting for about 5 or 6 days, and it was an example of there was 2 spots on the property that were just getting hammered, and it was red hot sign, and I was hunting those 2 spots consistently with the wind. I was invincible, and that deer wasn't showing up. And I think we were down there for about 4 or 5 days, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I got to go see I got to go try it. Something wasn't making sense to me because I knew he was hitting these 2 spots. My buddy wanted to throw a camera on the spots, and I'm like, I had 1 picture of him. That's all I needed, and I just whatever. I knew it was a good buck.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't know it was this buck. I was after I wanted to kill a buck. So so I went in and I took those 2 spots and where I thought he might be coming and exit. So I went in, kind of with the wind at my face, and was just looking intentionally to look for this deer. Now, I didn't actually find this deer when I went looking for him. I wanted to find him. I wanted to see him, and I wanted to see exactly where he was bedded so I could get in there and get closer to him.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see him, but I found where he was living, and it was a severely tore up area. And I first thing I do, I look at my phone. I seen what the wind was going to do the next day, and I didn't have a stand on me, so I went back to the truck to meet my buddy and get a stand. And it was super thick, super gnarly hedge in there, so I grabbed my buddy and I said, hey, I need your help clearing this spot. We went back, got to the spot. I immediately started to hang the stand for the wind the next day. We had some rain coming in that night. It was going to be perfect. I'll wash all my scent away. I figured I could do whatever I wanted to with this area. So we went nuts, man. We cleared the shit out of this
What's
place.
the time frame in October during all this?
This was like, so I think I got down there opener, and it was like 98 degrees. It was nasty. I mean, it was
short movements, more in the morning.
It was
not a lot.
It was humid. It was disgusting, and I was hunting for about 4 or 5 days, not seeing shit. So then I, pushed the envelope a little bit. So now it's probably about like the 8th or something, maybe, or maybe I came back. It was because I think I killed on the 10th. But anyway, so we went back in there and we trimmed the hell out of it because I knew I had that rain coming and I wouldn't leave any scent behind. But I remember me and my buddy leaving. We spent about 2 hours in that place. And we got back to camp, and we're talking, and he's like, okay, like, and we were talking about where he should go. And I didn't hunt that evening because I just wanted to hunt. I wanted to hit that spot the next morning. I knew he was going to be in there to bed up. I knew that was what was going on. And it's so funny because he talks to me about this all the time, but he's like, okay, so he's like, well, where are you going tonight? And then where are you going to go tomorrow? And I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere tonight because I'm going to go in that stand. I'm going to kill that deer first thing in the morning. Yeah. And he starts laughing. He's like, you're so fucking cocky or whatever. I'm like, and I looked at him. I'm like,
where do you get that from?
I'm like, dude, did you not see the spot? Did you not? Was your head not on you when we just cleared that? Like, dude, that thing is just nuts, man. I said, he's done. I said, I got a perfect wind. There was this tight little crack on the backside of this bedding flat that I knew was just gonna suck all that, lift all those thermals out because it came up and went up a ridge. So with the lift in the morning, and I had the perfect wind for it. So set it up. And the next morning, we got in there. I mean, it was, I'm always late. I'm late for everything. I'll probably be late for my funeral. So, like normal, I was coming in there. The sun was breaking, but I snuck up there, got in the stand, and that deer came in the way I anticipated him to from one of the red hot spots that I was finding. Yeah. That he was marking up at night. It turns out. Yeah. And was coming out, and I suspect that he was using this area. And just bedding up all day and probably just moving closer to – he was moving in the timber. Anyway, so I literally shot him as he was putting his front legs down because it was so thick in there.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he literally –
done it. So let me ask you this. How far were you where you killed that deer from the 4 sits that you didn't see?
Oh, it wasn't far. I mean –
So here's the point in taking.
Yeah.
Sometimes the guys that are having October lulls are just spending out their week in that four-day spot. You got to take shit into your own hands.
And that's the thing. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was hunting red hot sign. I didn't. It just so happens he was making it at night, or he was. He had a different pattern. If you really looked at it as the crow flies, the 2 spots I was bouncing back and forth from. I mean, you had a hot spot and a hot spot, and he was literally doing this back and forth. And anybody who went to go try and find that, you could see it, but you'd never know if you didn't want to.
And in October,
to move in more.
Sometimes, and if you follow moon phase type of stuff, the deer are in their beds before sunup. Yeah. So now in your strategy, you can't be right there because you're going to bump them out of the bed. But you can be on the edge. And if you realize this, a lot of times when a deer bed up, they have night beds. They got their initial bed, and then they'll get up and they'll mill around when the wind changes a little bit, and they'll change up a little bit. So if you're close to that, you're in the game, you got the best opportunity to get that deer shot.
So let's do this then. On that note, I guess we'll finish up. You shot him.
But you shouldn't be hunting in the morning, though.
Okay, so that's where I'm going.
In October.
That's where I'm going. They say, and I'm not saying that I say this. Well, actually, let me clarify this.
Let's see what are they saying.
Let me clarify this. I have said this. We've talked about this. Certain people do hunt this way. We've talked about it on the Working Class Podcast before. I've experimented with it, and I feel like I've had a lot of lost time. That being said, and I'm going to do this, and it's going to fire you up. People say that you shouldn't hunt mornings in October. They say it's not worth bumping a deer that's on a field or bumping him when he's already in his bed or going back to his bed or whatever.
So what are you going to do, not kill? Is that the alternative, just to not kill a deer?
I would say that most people, the mainstream would say don't pressure the buck so you can get in and kill them late October by not hunting them in the mornings.
That's a scenario.
Yeah, like we've all heard that.
And that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
First of all, there's no excuse for not hunting because this is a numbers game. The more times in, now, granted, you can do some damage at that time. Yeah. And if you know what you're doing, you're
going to be all right.
Tidbit around a little bit, not get too crazy with it.
Right.
If I didn't hunt mornings in October, I'd have a very, very small wall full of whitetail. And
that's what I was wondering when me and Cody were talking about doing this episode. He just sent
go back to that
picture.
The buck. If you are not hunting a specific buck, go do whatever the hell you want to do. And you only got a certain amount of time for vacation. Go in the rut. Your chances in 4 days, you're going to get a month's worth of October hunting and sightings in a rut. But if you're looking for the one you want to kill in the rut, he's gone.
And I think a lot of people want a shit ton of action. They're wanting to go out in October. Well, I don't see anything. It's a lull. They're not doing anything. Well, obviously they're not chasing, getting ready to breed and ripping fucking trees.
Well, people's work schedules and just life basically allows most people to want to hunt the rut, which I completely understand.
And if you're not, like I said, if that's your best time for the
and don't get me wrong, it's an awesome time to be in the wood. Who doesn't want? I mean, the stuff you can see some
tough
awesome
to pattern
stuff.
a big one during the rut though. My big ones leave this property for like weeks.
Dude,
and all of a sudden, one day you'll see them coming back across up in the open fields.
I hate it. Every year I am tortured in November. Yeah. I have one deer on the wall that was killed in November.
Hard to pattern them.
That's crazy.
And it's just, I don't know. It just sucks. I mean, no, I like it, but it's.
So here's some questions. I love that. Like, you guys, I love it. I love where this is going to go. So everyone says you shouldn't. And then there's some questions is, well, if you do, how long should you hunt mornings in October? Like, do you start October 1, you keep hunting them in?
As long as if you're retired and you do is hunt, you can stay all day if you want.
Yeah, and that's if you're on a trail. Like,
that's a whole nother question.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
then.
We'll get to that.
So I'm there's so much that I want to get to. I'm having a hard time getting there, which is very strange. Break it down. Like, so what would be the strategy? What's the number one spot you're going to hunt in October?
Let me look at this here because I think what you're getting at is I've seen it on here in a question.
You talked about food plots. I hunt field edges and food plots in October, but
in the mornings,
deer's usually just better just inside where I'm at.
So man, where is that? It said, how do you? I can't find. I'm dropping the ball here. Maybe this. Like if you know a buck's bedding area, do you start with observation sits or like I guess this guy is essentially it looks like he's like, okay, how do I know whether I hunt mornings or go to a bedding area and I think people overthink this a lot because if you can kill a deer coming out to a bean field in the evening or in the then do it. Like, so many people are so hell-bent on, like, they're going the other way. Well, I need to be on beds, and I need to be there in the morning.
All the media on the beds. I think I probably started that beast years ago with
And you did. And that's what I like to tell a lot of people, because he talks about it, because he's done it a lot. But people don't get the other script. Like, there's so many guys out there that go out there with the intention to do nothing but go I got to find a buck bed, and I got to kill him in a bed, and I got to do this in the
Yeah,
bed,
yeah.
and it's all about the bed.
That's the thing right now.
Dude,
You better know
you-
what you're doing when you get into that area.
And,
you know?
and
Yeah.
a lot of people screw up because they're not using their heads and they're not using the common sense like we talked about before. And there's, like I've talked about it, I've screwed up. I think I've screwed up on,
Well, it's a
deer and
fragile
beds.
area once you get to that point. You know,
So it's like, okay, well, how do, if I know a buck's, if I know where he's bedded, but he's coming out to feed here, like, well, you don't need to go disturb him. Let him bed there. Let him feel comfortable. Kill him when he comes out, right?
yeah,
I mean,
or kill them
exactly.
between the two.
they're overthinking it. There's
Yeah.
a lot of overthinking.
Like
that
I
goes
said,
on.
what I do is I'll hunt him around the edges of that. But if he ain't cooperating, I got no problem. I know right where he's bedded. There might be a stand set already in there. I'll dive in with a stand. I mean, you can see them. They're all on video where they're just about ready to go into their bed and they're getting air on them. So,
Well, should we paint? Do you want me to make up? Maybe what I'll do, I can make up a scenario on the fly on
here
a
we
bug.
go. The scenarios. Let's get the maps
Here
out.
we go. Here we go.
And then you guys can paint a picture on how you might tackle it, and maybe it's several different angles on the way.
Right.
So we'll just throw this out and at random, and that might be stupid the way I'm going to lay it out.
Probably.
It probably will be.
No, I'm just kidding.
So say there's a giant that's coming out to a standing bean field early October, and you know what chunk of timber he's coming out of. That's too easy.
Okay, now if
Too
you
fucking easy.
now okay,
Because
let me just answer that because
Set up between his bed and his food, and he's dead. That's what the answer I was going to
no,
give.
I mean so there's the bottom line is
Here,
we're all
so
frustrated.
Many, so
Can
many
I-
people have the answers in their question.
Okay.
It is, yeah, and that's the
But
thing.
here's
I
the
answered
deal.
my own shit.
That's fine that somebody chooses to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, and I never will. I'm always going to be hunting October, and I'm going to be hunting mornings in October, and I'm going to be harvesting some good animals doing it.
Yeah.
So that's my deal. If you got limited time, you're not all that skilled, and it's a touchier time. Like I said, the scent's tough to operate. The moon phase is shitty. There's a lot of things, but I'm going to tell you right now, for a mature buck, patterning them to a scrape in that October, I've set up on scrapes where that I could hear that buck get up within 50 yards where I'm at, right at dark, and almost make it that, and then he's going to wait for it to be pitch dark to come in and work that scrape. So if you got the tools to get into that position, you
think-
get it done in October. If you don't,
Yeah.
wait and
Well,
get him on the field running around with his head
And
up
everybody
his
has
ass
to
or-
look at their own situation too, like you said. You
Yeah.
know, you gotta if you're a little hesitant on like what you're looking for and that you're gonna mess that deer up, then don't go tromping around your property maybe. Or like you said, if you have limited time off work and you only got 4 days you're gonna spend in the timber, you might not want to spend the 3rd through the 6th in there. You know, I mean, it's so.
I had
I
a
mean-
guy that a friend of mine that had about 160 acres, had a world-class typical grow up, live on his ground, its whole life cycle, and it was bedding in his so-called sanctuary,
Yeah.
and never took a shot at that buck that deer lived its whole, and the neighbor ended up wounding it, and it went away. Man,
When he could have made
what
the
a
moves.
waste of time to not have tried to, what are you going to do? Phil? So you bump
Yeah.
him once or you bump him twice. Go after the son of a bitch and try and get him.
Okay, so let's talk about that then. Guys that are scared of, they're hesitant, they're scared, but they think they know where this buck's bedding. They're worried about bumping them out, going in there at the wrong time, whatever it may be. Anyway, spooking the deer out of his bed.
Okay.
And this is
Well,
where the bump and dump topic
To
gets
learn
brought
where
up.
he's bedding, you got to bump him out, right? How else are you going to know?
Right, and that too is how else do
You
you,
look
get
at an
right
aerial
in there?
photo and see where he's
that's the
bedded
thing.
or-
Right.
A lot of people think too, like, oh, well, I know where this deer's bedded, and that's a pretty strong
General area.
That's what I'm saying. That's a
Yeah.
pretty strong topic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and most of these guys with people who are or don't agree with this tactic are sitting on, let's like you said, if it's a 20-acre piece, and I don't want to go mess. You have to take into account everything that's going on here. You can't. I mean, if
Okay,
you
let's take a 20-acre piece then in account. A guy probably knows his 20-acre piece inside and out already.
Should.
He does not need to go in. He should know already where the bucks. You kill a buck, the big one's probably going to be in that general spot again next year. The work's already done. What
Right.
if you don't? How do you find where a specific deer is bedding? You tell me how you can find that spot other than kicking his ass out and having your boots on the ground and actually physically seeing it with your eyes. It's the only way I've been able to find to do it. Once I know that, I don't have to go in there and jag on him again.
Yeah.
I'll set a stand right then. Then that stand's in there on that bedding area. If the wind is right and he's bedding there, I can hunt him efficiently.
You can make the move.
and that's
yeah.
the thing.
Okay.
These deer aren't getting badgered. I mean, you only need to find out, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
I like
so-
badgering him sometimes.
Well, so many people though they become so obsessed. Like they got a 20-acre piece. like you said, you should just use your common sense. And okay, you got a 20-acre piece that you've been hunting for 10 years. Maybe you don't know it.
Yeah.
But they start. But even so, you get a guy that starts. Where I think the negativity comes from is this guy doesn't know what he's looking for, and then he's walking every day looking for it. Well, that's only going to fuck your shit up.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
and I think people get the two mixed though. Like
exactly
the bump and dump method, which I want to talk about. I think they think that is kind of the same thing as going in there.
That's a whole show.
Well, they take it where you can be in there every day, and then eventually they're just not going to put up with that shit anymore. Like eventually you're going to wear them out.
They won't eventually, but the whole thing is you don't.
They can relocate. You can. A deer's got a core area. You can't burn them out of it. If you got a 20-acre piece, they could be on another bedding spot over the hill. But another scenario, my buddy would argue with me. He said, "Oh, I thought you said that you can't burn them out of your bedding area. The buck that's living in my property right now, they seen gun season. Mm-hmm. Somebody missed it at frickin' 4 miles away from my property." I said, "Yeah, where was that buck the day after gun season?" "Oh, yeah, he's back on my property."
Right.
Exactly.
Back
so what if you scared him out and he ran 4 miles? He's not.
Yeah.
He's going where he knows, and he's going to run circles around you.
Right.
People overthink it. These deer are there for a reason. I mean, they're just.
So let's go back to the point because this is a good learning curve. If you've been hunting the same 20 and you don't know where the deer are bedding on that property, this will be a show for us to do. I'll tell you how to scout an area, learn it now, and then hunt it. But you can't just go on hunting what you don't know what's going to happen on that property. You got to get in there, dissect it, learn it inside out, and then you can hunt it efficiently.
Right, and I think some of my methods of getting on deer and killing some of the deer I've killed, a lot of it is guess and check stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on here, or an observation sit, some people might call it, or and then that's how you can fine tune where you need to be. But that's just the big thing right now is the beds. Everyone wants to be right on the beds. And
well,
it's tough.
If all these guys know where the beds are at and right on them, you think they'd be killing a lot more deer out of their beds, right?
That's what
I'm missing a point here. So.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's where this episode just ends really quick with that a little bit, because guys want that direct answer, and it doesn't always apply because I'm guilty of it, and I'm guilty of it already on this podcast. But I'm also asking for viewers. I'm answering my own question with the details I have. It's just some people don't know how to take some obvious details and plug it into.
So let's take a scenario right now. Okay, we got pro staffers are out looking. Right now, one of our guys is on a Boone and Crockett buck. He's got him pinned down where he's bedded. This is right now. This is before the season, though.
Yep.
And this could hold maybe if the beans stay green enough. This buck is in a little swale, nowhere near any timber, literally bedding and living in the middle of a chest-high bean field. And he's watching him eating beans while he's bedded down, even sitting in there. And he's been there for weeks. Yeah. Now, when the season comes in and the beans dry up, is he going to be there? No, but he's going to be close.
Yeah.
I got a buck right now on my food plot bedded, 180-incher. You can see the beds right there. He is living on the food plot, bedding there right now. Eventually, he's going to move back in and be still using that. Yep. And another one's on a logging road, our ATC trail. Huge buck's bedded on there right now. Is he going to be there during the season? Nope, but he's going to move somewhere else. A buck beds where he beds, and if you don't know where it's at, it's the most important piece of information to know. So go find it out, learn it, and then leave him alone. And then just hunt knowing that at this wind, he beds here. For this wind, he's bedded over there. And there's a whole other scenario to this. Is it a resident buck? Is it a neighbor's buck that knows your property somewhat that's over? Or is it a non-resident buck that's never stepped foot on your property again, and he's out of doe that's in heat, and he's going to bed there a few times?
Yeah.
That's a whole different scenario. Now that buck is just going to take the best position. When he comes and visits your land, he's got a doe that's in heat, and he's going to tend her for 4 days. He's going to bed up on what the typical spots are. He's going to be watching his backside and having the wind in his favor. So there's all kinds of
all
it's
the
not
knowledge
as easy as just
that's where he is. That's where we're going. It's not, and I think people box themselves into thinking that a bedding area is this magical place where every deer beds. Going back to other conversations we've had where every buck's different, they all kind of have a personality trait that causes them to do different things, and that probably has a big factor on where a buck likes to bed.
One of my properties I have, there's 3 major bedding areas for the biggest deer on the property, and they're going to be in one of those 3.
Consistently, year after year.
You can go bump them right out, and what I do is I bump them all, put them into one, and then I hunt them coming out of that one. But it's a specific thing that's learned, and like in October, I was a trapper. There was a primary scrape, a bushy tree, and I would just go in there on a daily basis and look at the sign on that tree. It'd be a little nicked up, a little chewed up. And And then all of a sudden I go in there one day and that bush is just demolished.
Mm-hmm.
And I jump in and I hunt it that day then. Now it's red hot and I see the frickin' buck. Where if just from experience, when he's just nicking it up, I'd hunt it, wouldn't see stuff, your normal October stuff.
Right.
So you can manipulate these deer. You can, but I would never leave off and have an excuse for not hunting any time of the year.
So let's hit some questions. And one big thing on here, and I just threw it on as a general bullet point, is like enter and exit strategies. Do those change much hunting October than they do from November? I know a lot of it's situational, but
yes, that's my answer. What's yours?
Yeah, I think they're always changing.
Yeah.
Every time I set up a new spot or I find a new area, I'm always thinking about the enter and exit.
Yeah, it's people generalize with October, man. It's
it
tough.
is.
It's
No.
hard to even answer some of
Well,
these.
I'm going to tell you right now, they're right. In October, it's a touchier bear to go in. You leave in scent. But when it's in November and a rut's on, dude, there could be a buck standing there looking at you that almost lets you walk up to him.
Yeah.
So it's a different animal, man.
Yeah.
So
Their mindset's just
you
different.
got to set your gearing toward October hunting. Then when you get a little more reckless when it gets to pre-rut. And then when a rut comes in, man, you can just bull around. I'll tell you, I bump and dump during a rut, and it's 100% freaking.
Right. Yeah.
You go find them. Go freaking kick the shit out of them and try and push them out. Or they don't leave.
That's funny, especially if there's a hot doe in the area.
Yeah, they are not going.
Cody, is there something on here that's really bumping out to you that you want to hit first?
Let's see here. Let me look at a couple of these.
I mean, I'll just pick one and let you guys go on it.
Here's a good one. So this guy says, how do I kill a deer that's bedding where he's eating, like an acorn flat in October? You got to get in there, right? So he's there and he's eating there and he's bedding there. Now a bean field is different, like out in the open. But if you got a deer, or if I had a deer on an oak flat that was eating on an oak flat, I would go push him off, hang a stand, and be there for when he comes back to bed and or eat. You got double the chance to kill that.
Get in early enough
to kill that deer. I mean, that's a very simple one that people
go in, hang your stand, get right in the stand, hunt, wait for him to come back.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you don't want, if he's bedding there and he's eating there, like why even give him a chance to come back there and you're not there?
Yeah.
As long as your wind's right, just make sure.
And a lot of times, he's there. It's not 100% that he's right there. You can way in and way out, slip in there, get on the edge of it, hunting the fringe, and
this is
with the wind right, and you'll get a crack at him.
Yep.
Here's a good one. In October, what's the biggest thing to be concerned with?
Scent control, I think.
That's fair.
Where's that one?
Wind, scent control, wind, hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just a
but
bitch.
honestly, I would say that is the number one thing in all hunting,
everything.
hunting
Well,
to be.
but you can get to later winters, drier days. The colder, the better. They don't pick up as much, and they're not paying attention, and the shit's hitting the fan. So you got the element of surprise.
Right.
In October, bedded, not
Moist,
moving a lot,
yeah.
living on the food source, touchy. You got a huge frickin' trophy that's lived that long.
Yeah.
He's paying attention. You better have your A game on, or you're not gonna get him.
Yeah, and scent is just one of those things that you can't escape it. You cannot mask your
And
scent.
it's horrible that time, and it's just.
It's just.
Here's another question. Would you rather focus on food or terrain in October?
Oh God, that's a freaking no-brainer. I don't ever focus on like terrain per se, but food.
Yeah.
At all times of the year, big whitetail is about food. Even during a rut, it goes to the does and heat still feed.
Yeah.
So there's always that scenario,
Yeah.
I mean, I just look at it as like, what is a deer? I mean, what about terrain would you, I guess, entertain looking at opposed to food? I have no idea.
That's a good.
He's talking about a funnel. If a deer's bedding where it's feeding, it's not making the big travel.
This is a different guy.
Oh.
This is a different question. So I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be concerning yourself, especially in October. Like,
Give me that one. What was it about?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about terrain? It just says, what do you want to focus on?
Like
in
terrain's
October?
terrain.
Food
like,
or
what
terrain?
about it? Type of thing.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. Like, what?
I get it.
Food.
That's
food.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like
Pecking order, scrapes.
Yeah. So he's just putting something in the mix that doesn't need to be there all together. I think.
Well, no,
that.
because
Right, that
some
makes sense.
guys that maybe
That
have
goes
heard
to-
some things are sitting in a funnel.
That
in
goes
October.
back to what I was talking about right off the bat. People want to hunt like they do. They want to sit field edges and have bucks come down working scrapes and have chasing does. And
that brings us to this next question here, which I really like. What, in your opinion, makes hunting October difficult for some hunters but not others?
wait, what in your opinion?
See where I'm at?
Yeah. So what makes hunting in October difficult for some people? They just, I guess not know. I mean, for one, they're not understanding what they're trying to do. You get some of these questions.
Your level of experiences. We just talked about it.
And that's the thing. Like when you don't understand what you're trying to accomplish, the mission you're trying to achieve, these guys are just running rampant or screwing up their properties or messing around or not taking certain things into account. And it's just, like you said, probably just knowing exactly what you're doing too, and knowing how to, keep those things aligned with your game plan.
I'm looking here. We've answered a ton of these already. Like we knocked out like half of these. So here's one. In October, where do you tend to find the bucks? I'm talking post-bachelor groups when they've disappeared from their summer ranges and before any pre-rut action really gets going. Where are they hiding during the solitary time period, and how do you locate them? So I guess it's more of like a where are you finding the majority of your bucks in October? We covered a little bit of this already.
Yeah. I mean, we covered. I mean, I would say close to food. I mean, they have their pattern, what they're doing. I mean, a lot of these, it's like you said, food. It's all about food. So they're not worried about breeding. They're not doing anything. Typically, I would say the ones that are always within, I don't even know if you could put a yardage on it, but they're within where they're frequently eating, like very close.
Yeah. At this time of year, with the big thing them deer are doing is monitoring where the volume and herds of does are at. Mm-hmm. So they're working their scrapes, and they're starting to poke around a little bit, and they're seeing that. Like we had a buck now that's already made the move. It's a half a mile away. Now I spot him for the first time. I put a food plot in the center here. This center is loaded with a lot of does. Now he's starting to poke around and seeing where traditionally he was all with the bachelor group and bucks, and there's no does there. Now they're starting to poke around. I want to know where am I going to be breeding? Where am I going to be setting up all these scrapes? And I could show you. I walked in there and I just fresh pile of shit, green as hell. The food plot's just kicking in, so he's living large, eating on there, and he's got looking at every doe that's just herds them in there. So he's ready to roll,
So in your experience, when a buck is out of velvet, do you find like a mature buck, if you get to watch them year after year, do they move to the same spot? Like once velvet's off and they're out of that summer bachelor group deal, do you notice a buck moves? Get what I'm saying is like, does he go to the same area where he knows the does are, where he likes, where he's comfortable, where he's been before, or do you think they'll venture and find a new home range?
I don't know on that if he's got his
I didn't know if you've ever noticed that, like if something was super patternable that way.
I don't think so. I think them deer, especially the older deer that we're looking for, they got their spots figured out. They know where the does are at.
It's worked for them.
They
in
know
the past.
what's going on. It's usually those subordinate deer that leave them, and I think they're still.
One little good October deal is when a deer comes out of velvet and goes in hard antler, its testosterone soars, and a dominant buck that's coming into his own is wound up and ready to breed right then. And you'll see them tear the shit out of stuff, be real aggressive, and then all of a sudden they realize, hey, this rut ain't going to be for a while. Then they gear back down. So you can take advantage of a little window.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot of times it's not your biggest buck, but it's a dandy deer but he's coming in his own. He knows now this is my time this year.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, it's a different animal from velvet to hard antler to right on through the rut. It's a total different animal you're after.
It's definitely interesting. I feel like we just like knocked all these out, and a lot of it is. I mean, what's the bottom line for hunting in October? Like, I don't know. Like, Cody, if you had to,
October.
Do you think people just answer? Is it overthought? The whole thing.
A lot of people overthink things for sure.
No, somebody set a seed in their head, and some of the things that the seeds some of the seeds that are set are correct.
Yeah.
It is. So maybe if you're not all that well versed in this sport yet, maybe you take it easy in October and back off. And if you have a buck living on your property, to go in and nobody else is hunting or messing around is going to kill it, to take your best ambush on him when his guard's down a little bit, good scenario. Yeah. I'm not waiting around for anything. If that buck is in there now and he's in October, I'm going after him.
Yeah.
I might screw up on him a couple times before I get him. It might not be November till I do catch up, and then when it gets too late, he's gone.
Right.
Yeah. And then it's a late season hunt to get him again.
Yeah, because when the does start controlling things, then you're just.
But it really does have to do with that. If it's a particular deer you're chasing, that's the whole difference between them all.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense when you break it down that way, because if you know where he's bedding and you know where he's eating consistently, it's up to you now to put the work in and hopefully you have a good mobile setup to
and
be
like the one
where
kid
you need to
said,
be.
a lot of times that year they're feeding where they're bedding, so it's a touchy little deal there.
But
you know?
even the ability to be able to move in on a deer, and maybe you don't know about this and you're not hunting a specific deer, but you're just looking for a good deer. Well, if it's early, you can find that good deer, and then you can figure them out from there, opposed to hunting in November, and then you're just, if you see a good deer, well, fuck, good luck getting another shot at it. I mean, or good luck getting another chance. He might have came from miles away or not. So
if he's dogging, doing some crazy
you know,
shit.
So I think that's a good.
I mean, well, scent control and wind direction, so that's like probably the next two big factors. If you have all the other information, that's like what you really need to be focusing on. And I use ozone. I feel like I'm pretty diligent with scent control. And you always play the wind. I don't ever forget the wind, no matter what methods I think work. And if you think it's
here on that,
if you think witchcraft's ozone's witchcraft, whatever, I use it, but I'm never ignoring the wind.
Right.
So
that's your crutch, and if that gets you through it, that's fine. Or if you use a suit, whatever it is that you put on your game face. But the minute you start thinking that what you got is 100%, you lost.
100%.
Yeah,
you lost the game.
The minute you start trying to cheat that and think, well, okay, I think I could probably.
Well, and you get these guys too. I hear at source, a deer came in right downwind of me. Who gives a shit if you got lucky or the thing dropped its guard? Who knows what it was? Maybe it was born with no frickin' nostrils. We don't know. But if you think that wind and what he's smelling and how he makes it through his whole day or life,
that's a
you're
big
lost.
thing that like you hear it all the time. I mean, I have heard it hundreds of times at trade shows. Man, this stuff, I had a deer come in right downwind, what does that really mean? Like, what are you really trying to?
And he had another 5 that smelled you never seen that bugged out.
That is the biggest thing. I think we talked about that last time. Is most of these people aren't realizing, just like the camera thing we talked about in the last episode, they're getting busted before they have any recollection of even a deer being in the vicinity. I mean, you're talking ridges away. You're talking. I mean, I've seen bucks on how far is that bottom field in Illinois? I mean, clear across that thing.
Mile.
It's got to be literally hit a fucking brick wall when they got to my scent line. Like, I am talking, and they bugged out. They did not hold out for a single second. This stuff happens, and this happens all the time.
And it's not that he's got bad hygienics, because I don't care what it is.
It's anything.
Hygiene.
And that's what I get at. You could be scrubbing yourself down with whatever soaps, and you could be burying your clothes, and you could be doing all this. They're gonna smell you. They got a powerful nose. It's their number one source of defense. So quit trying to cheat it.
And the faster the wind, the more the scent gets to them, and it's freaking and the moisture, the weather, the more it sticks to. It's just horrible scenarios that you have to play. And if you get those spots that are good, I got spots that are just bulletproof on any thermals coming up from every side of a hill, and just you can watch stuff go 100 feet, just rush out, and you're invincible. When you get those spots and you're on post, man, you just feel invincible on there. And now you're in the game. And if you're and now that's a spot that's a good spot, not just because it was good for wind. It's a phenomenal spot where the deer are moving through that just happened to be good for that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've learned, and it makes perfect sense when you think about it and break it down, but it took someone like telling me, like on a podcast actually a couple of years ago, my buddy Clark Cummings, big buck killer. You met Clark at the bow shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Big buck killer, tags out almost every year. He broke down the topic of what he calls quartering winds, to where you're hunting a wind where the deer, I mean, obviously the deer thinks it's working for him, but you're in there to capitalize on him thinking he's in the good, but you're in there on quartering wind to the deer to where you're still fine. And maybe sometimes it kind of is that line of maybe being a bad wind for you, but if you can make it work. And that's what I applied last year, and it worked great for me.
When them bucks loop in downwind to come into a bed, and if you got to know which direction they're coming in, so you're set.
Yeah.
You're literally set up almost with the wind wrong, and you're right on a sliver of and again, you can watch some of them videos. It's within a matter of like 5 more feet, that thing would loop around the wind a little bit more. You'd probably catch my scent.
Yeah.
And they think they're good to go, and they come in.
I just love the way he worded it, like quartering winds. I'm like, oh, man, it's a great term. I don't know if you guys use that term for it or not, but I'm like,
these terms.
It does it makes sense though. It's a good way to like just think like quartering winds. If a deer's coming this way, where would I need to be to where he thinks that wind is good for him? Mm-hmm. Because he's not going to walk into his bedding area with the wind to his back, And I mean, maybe one would, but I think consistently they're going to want to know if something's in there if they're going in.
So he's talking about the loop that they're making. they're literally quartering for a while, and then all of a sudden they're going to get that wind in their nose and make sure that it's good.
Yep.
I think,
yeah,
for
call it
instance,
what you want.
I think, for instance, like even the tuning fork buck, it was something you could really watch, and like you said, I mean,
well, I made a statement, years ago, too, that you're almost set up with the wind wrong, but you got to know the way that they loop in. And if you don't, that buck's not getting in there. He's gonna sense you get the hell out. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've found the same thing for even field coming in to feed in the field, and just kind of scent checking that field, and having the same opportunity with that close wind on there as well.
I always said if you could fly to your stand and be completely scent free, you'd kill anything you wanted at any time.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just teleport.
Yeah, if
you leave no scent in, you have no scent there. You'd be invincible. You could kill anything, anywhere, anytime.
I mean, well, if you could eliminate,
you can't.
if you could eliminate scent, yes.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Like, stop. I mean, these guys spend so much time trying to eliminate the scent. Quit trying to mess with it, and just start making sure that you're covering your ass with where your scent's going, because there's nothing else to do.
So I had a kid once, at a show. I won't name names, but was asking the same.
Curtis Scott.
Was a big believer in all the scent eliminating stuff and suits, and was just
like to where it was foolproof.
Right. And here's and I just talked to him, and I says the first thing you need to do, just get rid of all that shit now, and hunt without it. Now, what do you got to do if you do that? Right? If you just got rid of your bulletproof armor, what do you have to do? You got to pay extra attention to the wind.
Yeah.
He did that one year, shot his biggest buck that year, and has killed big bucks every frickin' year.
Yeah.
You had this thing that you thought was 100%, and you were cheating and trying to go against Mother Nature. And now that you know you can't, you're setting up right, and you're being
I think that podcasts and television and guys with experience talking, I think that's a known thing that nowadays more that scent control is an added boost of confidence for your mind state, which I love it. I love doing scent control methods because it makes me feel like I'm doing a little more to help the scent, but I'm never ignoring the wind.
And I'll say this too, because I don't give a shit of stepping on toes, but
step on.
When you have that scent stuff that you're using.
Yeah, I use Scent Crusher.
Now, so what you're doing is in a worst case scenario, and think of it now in the fall where it's really cold and a deer just gets a lot of bit. That might be the little extra you need. He's got his guard down. But if you ain't got it, maybe that's the little extra you don't too. I'm just more of a believer in 100%
I think
bulletproof setup, with the wind direction.
For sure.
I think it is solely, that stuff is solely, like you said, it's a play on the mind, because the mind is a powerful thing, and even the thought of like knowing you're scent free could make you more.
That's exactly what it's subconsciously. You think that I'm scent free.
Well,
I can get away with this,
and you let off a different aura in the tree stand that I believe animals can sense when you're confident and when you.
Yeah.
It's just like you watch them lions walking through just herds of gazelle or whatever. There's demeanor, all that stuff. As soon as you start, I'm sure everybody out there has noticed, like, you start trying to think about like shooting a deer, and then all of a sudden shit just starts not going right because you're working yourself up instead of being confident about it. And
that's the thing.
You master the wind, you'll master the whitetail. That's all there's to it.
Yeah, that's how they get big. That's how they know. I mean, it's
the only thing you got to beat them at.
But anything like, if it's whatever scent control method I like or equipment that you use, or it could be you got your lucky. I have a thing that my wife made me when I first started hunting that I keep on my bow. To me, I'm like, that's just, I got that aura.
So let me give you a little story quick here. So years ago, we used skunk scent, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And then we switched from skunk to, it was earth scent was a big thing in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that was my war paint. I'd put on my frickin' face camo and my frickin' sure kill frickin' earth scent on my cover scent, and I go out.
You didn't have the wafers?
No, that was years later. But anyhow, all of a sudden one year they were sold out of this stuff, and I could not find it. I thought, my God, I've died. How am I going to hunt this season without it?
Yeah.
I hunted that season without it. I've seen more big bucks and had more occurrences ever than I did, and I've never used anything as a scent cover or shit. I just clean clothes. clean shower, and play the frickin' wind to a T. That's all, and it's 100%.
I remember, sorry,
30 years of learning that. Now you heard it in one shot. So forget about going through all the testing of it. And just
it's right here.
Start paying attention,
That's all you
man.
need. So my dad back in the day, I remember this. I was young. I was 15, maybe 16. My dad bought. You know when you go to like a farm store. Central Illinois, they're all over. You open up, it's the piss they keep in the cooler, so it's super fucking fresh because it's in the cooler. You know, they got to keep it refrigerated. So my dad's like, I'm gonna buy this, and he puts it out, and I don't know, something, and he saw a buck come in and just was downwind of where that was, and just freak out and get the hell out of there. My dad's like, I'm never buying a fucking bottle of anything ever. And then we literally I've never even used it ever since.
So here's a 180 on that. I've done the same thing and I had a field like you talked about, big long thing. The buck was coming out every day in a different spot. So I thought I'm going to go get some scent and I'm going to run it. And I had the scent actually. First he went by the rag drag that I did, and I thought, oh, this shit don't work, just like I thought, right? All of a sudden, he got downwind of it and picked up the scent, went to that frickin' thing, and beelined it right from my trees. Now, so it worked. It did what it was supposed to, but guess what? Once that deer got into my setup where I was at, he busted my ass cold turkey, and so I never used it again because it's all things. Some guys have mastered it. Some guys have mastered rattling. Complete and utter surprise, man, and play the wind, and you can't beat it.
I mean, why would you not play it if it's that foolproof? That's what they survive on. What have we missed on October hunting? I feel like we covered a lot of it. Overthinking.
Us poor farmers that have to take their crops out and don't get to hunt as much in October as you guys do.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
Oh, okay.
I don't have that problem, but if you had some green equipment, you might be able to get the harvest done a little quicker. I don't actually give a shit. You're like, I'm a red equipment guy. Sorry. I'm like, dude, I don't care.
Whatever.
Oh, man.
Red tractor, green tractor.
No, so yeah. So what do we learn? We don't. It's a touchy time of year. Moon phases are usually shit. The scent control's tougher. But if you're looking for a specific deer, it's probably your best time to kill a certain animal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then others might have different. So
my advice for viewers and listeners, don't be afraid to fuck up, because that's where you're going to learn the most.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. And put in the work. The more you're putting in the work prior to October too. Or even in October going out, it's whatever fits your strategy. I think.
Some of the sign that you'd stumble on, man, is just so frickin' red hot.
And we didn't talk about. We didn't talk too much about like late October, but I think that probably goes without saying. These deer are starting to get more into a. Now, see, I guess that's a good point. Late October, you start getting into that third week, and you start trailing into November. I think that's a crucial time to.
That's my favorite time.
Well, that's
third week October.
So, even that third week into the fourth week, you got deer that are relatively on a pattern, but starting to get a lot more squirrely and starting to branch out and starting to mark more territory. It's a really good opportunity to capitalize on like those scrapes and just. A lot more field edge hunting and stuff like that.
Yeah, once it gets into November, the scrapes and stuff for me are just not. They're being used. They are, but it's just. Yeah. It's just a.
I do like that late October a lot.
Even for instance too,
the 15th through the 25th is like I've killed a good handful of bucks in that area.
So I've already hunted in Illinois. And opening week, October 1, was the best hunt of the whole, right on through mid-October, 3rd October, November rut and everything. We had a opening day down there. It was 28 degrees. We had a cold snap for a week, and the shit just came unhinged. All those bucks that were coming on their own, when I told you about were anxious to do it, they were thinking, this is it, man. This is, the weather was right and all this shit.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they were battling, killing each other in cornfields and shit. And the rest of the year was good, great, but not as good as that.
But not like that first.
Well, that cold weather fires them off.
Oh, but and that low at that time, that's not like 15 degrees difference. That's
a jump. Yeah, that's a jump down.
That does have some effect on them.
Quick and significant like cold fronts in October. What amount? If you had to put a number on it, like generalizing a little bit, like you say 10-degree change is a good time to jump out. 15-degree drop in temperature.
Just the front, a high pressure system going through.
Yeah.
Just like I think anybody got any injuries here on days where it's
You get
you know,
achy or
humidity and it's the pressures. You feel that?
Yeah.
I think an animal's the same way. It's dry air. They've just sat through a shitty storm or something, and now they got to get up. They want to move, and they got to move to check scrapes. So it's a phenomenal. So I like the fronts after versus before, in my opinion.
Like, what about you?
For weather or temperature drops?
Yeah, like
anytime it's cold or and we talk about that a lot
I
too.
think I missed the question then.
No, I don't think there's a specific like, oh shit, if it drops 14 degrees, I gotta be out there.
Well, I mean, like
that's just the natural fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it does that.
Right.
So, but that's where too I like those mornings as you're coming off that naturally cold in the evening.
So to re-answer, because I think I miss.
Well, I always heard like, and I know before and after a front, and you say you prefer after. Like, are you the same way? You prefer after like a storm front?
No, I will hunt. I'll do anytime.
He hunts all the time.
Yeah.
Front in it, through it, in the rain.
Sitting.
I mean, no, I don't like the rain.
No, not me.
The rain pisses me off. But as far as like moon phases go and fronts I firmly believe the deer are out there doing something at some point in time.
Yeah, they live in there. But I want to make a point before we miss it, because I missed the boat here. When you're talking a temperature change, if it's a temperature change of the normal temperatures, where it's a 10-degree colder than normal week than it would be, that's huge.
See, that's what I was
But
getting
there's
at.
always a 10-degree drop from midday at this time of year to. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, like storm
Outside
comes
of
in,
the
drops
norm.
15 degrees from normal.
Yeah, and it stays like cold for a while or something. That's
like a 2-day period or something.
Yeah,
then,
that's good hunting, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I love it. They're active and
anything that we didn't cover that you think needs to be covered for October?
I don't know, but you got me wanting to go out and set up some stands
Dude,
and scout some new spots.
I know. We didn't record this in October, but god damn it, I wish it was. I'm itching bad. All right. How do you feel?
I feel good. You want to – should we – let's see here.
Anything amazing that we didn't cover?
I don't know.
I think we knocked it out.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good October action. And you know, like always, too, submit more questions. You got any specific things that we didn't hit or cover, feel free to drop them on the comments or send us an email and we'll be sure to hit them next time.
Yep. If you're listening in podcast land, this is video on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can listen to it on the go on any major podcast platform. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good shit. And Cody, you gotta get your closer down, so I'm gonna let you do it, man.
Go work for it.
It was different from the last one.
I know.
All right,
maybe that's
like a wolf.
Maybe that's gonna be the
go work for it. All right.
Maybe that's be the
stay home in October. Sleep in.
Yeah. Don't hunt October mornings,
especially if you're anywhere on my property.
All right, guys. Thanks.